Welcome to Asian Music Idol, your ultimate backstage pass to the hottest stars and stories in Asian pop.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're unpacking quite a transformation. We're looking at an artist who, went from one very specific role to really building a whole new artistic identity. We're diving into Wang Yibo's solo music career, and we're using this really insightful article excerpt as our source today, which suggests it's a pretty significant shift from where he started.
Yeah, it's a great source for this, actually, because it doesn't just list the songs. It really argues that his solo stuff is less about just dropping singles and more about crafting these deliberate statements.
Exactly. It gets right to why this evolution is, well, so notable.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to dig into this source material, see how it paints this picture, and try to understand why his solo work is being framed as, maybe more than just a solo career, potentially the start of something bigger, like a movement.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
So the article, it takes us back first, back to his origins with the boy band UNIQ. It does highlight his talent as a dancer. I mean, everyone knows that. Fluid, sharp. But it notes that within the group, his role was often described as, let me get the quote right, dancing in the background.
Unforgettable performer, sure,
Yeah.
but kind of defined by that specific context within the group structure.
Exactly. And the source immediately draws a contrast between that and his solo sound. It uses this really powerful phrase, saying his solo work doesn't ask to be remembered, it demands to be replayed.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
What do you think the source is really getting at with that specific phrasing? Demands to be replayed.
Well, it really grabs you, doesn't it? I think it feels like the source is saying the music itself has this inherent quality, maybe an intensity or magnetism that just pulls you back in. You want to listen again. It's not just relying on, hype or being superficially catchy.
Right. It's the substance itself demanding your attention. That seems to be exactly how the source views it.
Yeah.
And this leads right into that core idea the article explores, that Wang Yibo isn't just, putting music out there. He's crafting these very intentional statements with each release.
And the first track the article really zeroes in on to illustrate this point is No Sense.
Yeah.
Released back in 2021. And the source calls it really atypical for a debut solo track. You might expect something maybe safer, more conventional. But no, the article describes No Sense as industrial, aggressive.
Yeah. It says it hits you like a siren in the dark. Even calls it a warning shot.
A warning shot, yeah. And the message, according to the article, is just crystal clear. I'm not here to please you. I'm here to show you who I am.
That's incredibly bold, isn't it? Especially for someone coming from that idol background to make that kind of artistic declaration right off the bat.
It totally flips the script. The source talks about his delivery on the track, sharp, cold, yeah. But with this undercurrent of controlled rage. And it suggests that maybe stems from years of being underestimated, perhaps, and now it's being channeled directly into the performance. It wasn't just singing or rapping. The source makes it feel like an unloading of something.
Yeah, like pent-up energy finally finding its outlet. And the impact, as the article points out, was huge. It hit over 100 million streams across different platforms.
And this is the key part.
Yeah.
Without all the usual stuff, like no heavy promotion, no big-name collaborations, no marketing gimmicks.
Right. The source attributes its success purely to raw presence.
Raw presence. The source really leans into that. It suggests something pretty powerful was happening right from that very first track, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It sets the stage. And building on that, the source then moves to his next big track, My Rules. How does the article describe the evolution here? Did it build on No Sense?
Yeah, it says My Rules went even deeper, both creatively and lyrically. It frames it less as just another song and more like a mission statement.
A mission statement. Okay,
Yeah.
so laying out his artistic identity and intentions more explicitly.
Exactly. The article says in this track, he paints himself as both architect and rebel. I love that description.
Architect and rebel. That's good.
And the source points out these contrasting elements within the track itself. You've got this beat with digital precision, but then the lyrics are burning with personal fire. That duality seems pretty central.
It really captures that tension, doesn't it? And the source even pulls out a specific lyric that kind of sums up this rebellious side. You can't play by the rules when the rules were made to trap you.
Wow. That's direct. A clear challenge to, I guess, established systems, expectations,
Yeah.
which the article suggests is a bit of a recurring theme for him.
It definitely seems like it. And this is also where the source brings up something really significant happening, like behind the scenes.
Ah, right, the creative control aspect.
Exactly. The article mentions these whispers that he started getting much more involved, influencing the production, co-writing, curating the visuals, even storyboarding the performance aesthetics.
So it wasn't just a case of being handed a finished product anymore. He was actively shaping the whole artistic package.
That's the picture the source paints. And it draws a clear conclusion from this. He wasn't just the voice delivering the message anymore. He was becoming the vision behind it.
That shift from performer to, like, the creative force, the article sees that as absolutely critical to this transformation story.
It's a key part of the narrative.
And when you place this whole approach against the backdrop of, the wider C-pop idol world, the article really highlights how much it contrasts with the typical path.
Yeah, the source is pretty specific about what he seems to be actively avoiding.
Like what?
Well, the list includes things like no sugary ballads, no dance tracks just for the sake of being trendy or getting clout, no predictable heartbreak songs,
Okay.
no constantly choreographed smiles purely for fan service, and interestingly, no borrowing Western sounds just for superficial cool points.
Yeah.
Feels very deliberate. He's charting his own course.
Right. So instead of fitting in, what does the source say his songs actually feel like?
It describes them as feeling like underground anthems breaking into the mainstream, calls them bold, gritty, entirely his.
Entirely his. So it sounds like he's not trying to slot into an existing genre, but more like creating his own kind of sonic space.
That's the impression, yeah. And look, this might seem like a risky strategy, right? In an industry that often prefers the tried and tested formulas.
Sure, safer bets.
But the source is pretty blunt about it. It's working.
Okay, so what's the evidence that it's working, according to the article?
Well, it points to solid streaming numbers, yes, but also a growing list of music awards. And this seems important, a fan base that's described as more loyal than ever.
But loyal to what specifically?
Loyal specifically to his art, his unique voice, not just, the idol image from his past. That connection fans seem to have with the music itself really backs up the idea that these statements he's making are actually landing.
That makes sense. Then there's this other really interesting angle the source explores. It calls it the artist behind the silence.
Yes, this is fascinating. It highlights his pretty unique tendency to rarely explain his songs. He doesn't do many interviews dissecting the lyrics or the process.
Which is quite striking today, isn't it? When artists often break down every detail on social media or whatever, his restraint stands out.
It really does. And the source's take is that for him, the music is the explanation. It does the talking.
So the silence isn't a negative.
Not according to this source. It argues this deliberate silence actually creates a powerful kind of mystique. It shifts the dynamic.
How so?
It turns listeners from just passive consumers into engaged participants. It sort of forces you, the listener, to analyze the lyrics, study the visuals, look for what the source calls Easter eggs.
Ah, so you have to invest more effort to understand the message.
Exactly, which, the article suggests, fosters a much deeper connection with the art itself rather than just being told what it means.
The source has a really killer line to sum this up. It says, "In the loud, crowded world of idol music, Wang Yibo's silence roars."
Wow. That perfectly captures it, doesn't it? How choosing not to follow the usual promotional path, including being quiet, can actually have a massive impact.
Yeah, it's fascinating how the source identifies this lack of explanation as a strength. It forces that direct interaction with the work. Elevates the art, maybe?
I think that's exactly the argument. It puts the focus squarely on the creative output.
Okay, so given this path, the source has laid out these deliberate statement tracks, the growing creative control, this unique positioning, the silence. Where does the article suggest this is all heading? What's the future look like?
Well, the source looks ahead and really doubles down on the idea that he isn't just like following a pre-existing road. He is building a road of his own.
Right, building his own road. And the prediction is, well, it's pretty bold, isn't it?
It is. The source argues that if this pattern continues, more self-production, deeper lyrics, and even sharper artistic identity, then he's not just becoming an artist.
Okay, so what is he becoming then?
Something more foundational, it seems.
Sure.
The source's final prediction is that he's actually becoming a benchmark for what artistry means in the next wave of Chinese music.
Wow, a benchmark. That's a significant claim.
Huge. And it goes even further. Eventually, the source predicts people won't primarily say, "Oh, Wang Yibo, he started in that boy band."
Right.
Instead, they'll say, Wang Yibo started a movement.
A movement. That positions him not just as, a successful solo artist, but as someone who could actually catalyze real change in the wider music scene.
Exactly. And if we kind of connect that to the bigger picture, this insistence on artistic agency, on defining your own terms instead of just fitting the industry mold.
Right.
What does that potentially mean for these big, highly structured entertainment markets?
Yeah, that's a really important question, isn't it? It's about the potential for artists to actually shift the landscape, maybe inspire others to seek out a more autonomous path.
Precisely. How much can one artist influence the system?
So we've really dug deep into this source today. We've traced Wang Yibo's journey as the article presents it, from that specific role in UNIQ to this artist crafting deliberate statements with tracks like No Sense and My Rules.
We've seen how the source highlights his increasing creative input, his unique stance against some C-pop norms, and the really interesting power of his artistic silence, how it encourages listeners to engage more deeply.
Yeah, it's clear from the article his path is framed as much more than just, a standard solo career. It's presented as this deliberate act of defining himself artistically, maybe even a form of rebellion.
Definitely. And maybe just to wrap up, it's worth pondering that final, powerful prediction from the source. Can one artist, by really forging their own path and insisting music speaks for itself, truly set a new standard? Could they actually start a movement within such a complex and, let's face it, often rigid industry?
It's a fascinating thought to leave you all with. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material today.
Thanks for watching Asian Music Idol. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay updated with the hottest buzz in Asian pop culture.